Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Galit Speaks podcast. I am here with Monica Stein. Um, Such a crazy life story. I got to tell you a little bit about her. She went from aerospace engineer to a lifestyle engineer. Her story begins at the age of 8 when her father taught her sister and her to meditate and self heal. As an adult, her curiosity and need to balance herself from the stress of engineering led her to different healing modalities, from coaching and aura cleansing to animal communication and energy cleansing. In 2016, she became really sick, and Western doctors could not help her. After several months of illness, she began incorporating Ayurvedic techniques and tools and finally began to feel better and has been consistently healthy since then. Now she helps men and women create lifestyle habits that support their unique mind body type and live healthy ever after. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah,
Thanks
that's
for
such
having
a
me.
crazy story.
Oh my God. When I look back and see like all of the alignment that's happened, that's not even part of it, but like just everything that's fallen into place for me, like it's just crazy. I just feel blessed that all these things have happened the way they have.
Yeah, so tell me kind of like, okay, you became an engineer. Um, how did you get from there to here? Right? Like, because I feel like there's so many there are so many people that have this spiritual thing, that have they learn meditation and they use it in their lives, but going from having a job like being an engineer to becoming a coach and understanding that your life path is totally different from what you originally thought it was, like, is a journey.
Yeah. So as you read in my bio, it all started when I was a child. And my dad actually, I believe, he's passed away now almost 20 years. He had met these people. My parents don't have college education. And he met these people in the jewelry store he was working at. And they were psychics, they were healers, they were meditators. And I believe this came at a time like during his midlife ish, and he might have been having some kind of midlife crisis. So I think it kind of came at a really good time for him because it helped him have some tools for himself. And then he brought these tools home to my sister and I. And I remember sitting on the couch with my dad. He brought home these cassette tapes, and the box holding the cassette tapes said, it was called Meditation for Children. And I still remember the place that I went to, like this meadow, and seeing the animals and the butterflies and hearing the birds and the stream. And like, it's still like my happy place, like I go there. So it was really powerful. And he taught us how to self-heal. And what I found out later on in life was that he had studied Reiki. And so he had already started to teach us Reiki at that time. Later on in my life, I did study Reiki. So it's kind of, I feel like everything's full circle. I never really had any interest in engineering. The the high school that I went to was a conservative Jewish school in Chicago. And even though it was a small high school, there was either the whole, I'm going to go the MRS route or I'm going to be an accountant, basically. So this is who I was surrounded by. And so, you are the 5 people you surround yourself. So this is what it was. And I was like, well, whatever, I'll just do this. And so that's what I started to think about. But then when I was 16, my parents are immigrants. They're from Brazil. My mom is actually Hungarian, but when she was 14, she moved to Brazil. She met my dad. They got married. His dream was to come to the US. They ended up in Chicago. Anyway, we moved to Brazil when I was 16, and wow. Wow. So we got to be near family, which is great. But still, so there it's 3 years of high school, not 4, like over here. And so I needed to decide right away, because I had just finished my second year in the US. I had to decide right away which path I was going to go. And so there's 2 paths in Brazil. And one is you go the science and math path, or you do like liberal arts. And I said, well, I'm going to do the science route. And I was not really good at science, but I loved math. So I'm like,
Okay.
I'll just do this because this should be easier, because I went to a school that only spoke Portuguese. I went to a Brazilian school, Jewish, but still Brazilian. Anyway, so this is the path I chose. And still, by the time I wanted to apply to college over there, it was still like, I still didn't know. Do I try for engineering or do I try for business? Well, the schools in Brazil, they don't have one test like they do here, and then you list all the schools you want to go to, which I know they don't do anymore, but
Yeah.
like that's how it used to be. There, you have to take a test, an entrance exam for each school that you are applying to. And so I applied to 4 schools, 3 for business, 1 for engineering. Well, I was on the wait list for engineering, but once the wait list whittled down, I got accepted into the School of Engineering. And so I just started my engineering studies there. But then we moved back to Chicago, and I came back and I'm like starting all over again. Okay, where do I go? I have so many more choices now. What do I do? Do I really want engineering? Am I listening to where the universe is sending me, or do I want business? So I started in community college because we came back in April, and so I couldn't apply to any schools. So I just took a mixture of, prerequisites for engineering, prerequisites for business. That way I could balance out the stress and the math and the science and psychology. So I was always looking for balance. So I know this, like my whole life, always looking for balance without knowing what I was doing. And this is what Ayurveda is. Ayurveda is balance. So I feel like it's always been innate, and like we remember. So anyway, I ended up getting into school, and there's a lot of terrible things that happen along the way, but I ended up getting into engineering school, and that's the path I took. But still, I'm like, business. I really want to take business. So I got hired by Boeing, and I was an engineer at Boeing. And one of my coworkers said, you know what? A lot of the engineers are going to graduate school and getting their MBAs, and Boeing pays for it. And I said, oh, okay, sure. Why not? So I did a little research. I ended up getting my graduate degree from Seattle U. And so I got my MBA. Still, during that time, there's still me wanting some balance. So because Boeing is so very generous, or was so very generous, they also, paid for classes within Boeing. So I always looked for classes inside of Boeing that were curious to me, that were interesting to me. So coaching, strength finders, anything that would help me learn more about myself. And then on the outside, there was, this cool university nearby called Bastyr, and it was all very holistic. And so I took aura cleansing, animal communication, and just anything I could find, working with the animals, working with people, whatever it was. And so always bringing balance into my life and just kind of bringing it all together for me. And so to me, going from aerospace engineer to lifestyle engineer is not really a big step at all, because of all the other things I was doing to create balance, to follow my inspirations during that time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a crazy journey. I mean, it's awesome, right? Because it just shows you that no matter which path you choose, if it's not for you, it's okay. And you can pivot, and you're not stuck in that specific life path. And you got so many skills just from pursuing that one life path that, it was meant for it to happen for you.
Yeah. Oh, no, totally. I believe it really was meant to be. Everything that happened was meant to be. Because I took that engineering job, I ended up in Seattle. In Seattle was where I met my husband. Could I have met him somewhere else? Could it be that maybe in another path he would not have been my husband? I don't know the answer to that. But to me, it's just interesting. It's just interesting to take a bird's eye view to everything that has happened in my life and how it benefited me, even with closed doors, right? Like you said, it's just a redirection. It's just a pivot. Okay. A lot of people will say, you know what, just push through that door. Sometimes it's really not meant for you because there's something better. And so I just listen to that. I'm like, I get sad, right? We have our ebbs and flows. We have our depths. I get sad if the door's not opening, right? Like, why me? Why is this happening? But, I want to get myself out of that because that's low vibration. So how do I raise it? I need to reframe it, right? This isn't the right time. This isn't the right person. This isn't the right situation. Something better will come along. And I know this because of all the things that I went through in my 20s. I know that I have some kind of guardian angel with me, guiding me.
Yeah.
So in 2015, I moved to the Bay Area, and my sister called me up and she said, I really need to get out of my life. She goes, let's go do something. So that's how we ended up at the Chopra Center in San Diego, in Carlsbad, San Diego. And that's where my path to healing myself and helping others to heal really began. And I'm so grateful for that time, even though like it felt like nothing was happening and it was so slow. And what do I do with this? And, when's it going to happen? When's it going to come together? But it all has. It all has.
So tell me a little bit about what that journey, the healing journey, was like for you, and if you're okay with sharing, like, why did you go down that path? Like, what was the illness, and how has it changed who you are?
I believe the healing began once I decided that I needed to get out of Seattle. I was standing in my living room. I was looking outside the window and the sun was out, but there was a tear coming down. And I'm like, what is this? What's going on? Yeah. And that was me in present moment awareness and saying, oh my gosh, I really don't like what's going on here. I don't like this life. I don't like being here. I recognized that if I stayed in Seattle, that I would always feel like I would need to return to my home base of Boeing, that I would only ever be able to be an engineer and I would only be able to do it at Boeing. And I needed to get out. I was unhappy with the weather. I loved my friends. I loved my life there, but something wasn't right. Yeah. And so we moved to the Bay Area and we moved here. I got here March 2nd of 2015, I arrived. And shortly thereafter, we set up house, and I remember sitting outside in March, and it must have been 60 degrees, I don't know, but it was sunny outside. And I'm just sitting out there in the sun, and I started to feel the healing already. Like I just said, oh my God, this is so good. Oh my God, I'm healing. And so it was a decision that I needed to make for myself, for my well-being, mind, body, spirit. And a funny story. I have dogs. I foster dogs. I rescue dogs. And so my little scrawny dog, who's so skittish, we were in our first home in California and I had to go to Target. I had to go run some errands. And I said, come on, let's come inside. Let's come inside. Because we'd been sitting outside in the sun. And I'm like, let's go inside. And I went to go get him. And he's like hiding behind a bush. And I said to him, the sun will still be out later and it'll come back tomorrow. And so don't worry about it. You just come inside now for a little bit. And then when I come home, you can go back outside. So he came inside. My dogs love the sun. They're sun worshipers. So it's really healing. It's really healing. Yeah.
It's so strange. And especially in my life, I've seen different places give you a different feeling. I also I moved to Arizona. I live in Phoenix, Arizona now. And the fact that it is always sunny and so rarely is it dreary or rainy or whatever, it changed how I feel, right? It changed my personality a little bit. I moved here from New York where the winters are really harsh and it's always raining. And even when it's sunny, it's sweaty. And you become so on edge. And then when I came here, I was like, oh,
right.
And there are so many times where I still miss New York and where I used to live, just because the community that I had there was why I loved it, and I have yet to really find the same level of community in Arizona, even though I've been here for 3 years. It's just everything is spread farther apart, right? Which is one of the things I love, right? There's nature. I have trees, and I see coyotes, and I see owls and hawks and lizards, and like all of these things that make me happy. But it's just such a shift in your shifting your location can have such a profound shift on your mental.
It can. It
Yeah,
does. It does. For the good and for the bad, depending on where you go and how it lands with you, right?
absolutely.
Yeah. It's really interesting. So you asked me about my illness. So, so I'll address that. So in 2016, end of 2016, in December of 2016, I got really sick. It started with vertigo, which I later found out was not vertigo, but it felt like a vertigo and everything. That's what the doctors told me. But it was still vertigo for like 2 months. And I couldn't eat because I was nauseous. And my husband worked from home a lot at that time because I couldn't do anything. And I couldn't walk the dogs. And I barely made it outside, but it helped like this much. And I was afraid I was going to fall over. So I couldn't do anything. And the doctors here couldn't figure it out. I went to regular doctors. I went to urgent care. I went to specialists, and they just contradicted each other. Yes, you have ENT, or yes, you have vertigo. ENT doctor said, no, you don't have vertigo. So what was it? I have no idea. I still don't know what it was or is. So what happened was, so this happened in December of 2016. In September of 2016, so just a few months before, I had signed up my husband and I to take this Ayurvedic workshop in Carlsbad, 6 days of meditation, yoga, massage every day, like actually experiencing Ayurveda.
Yep.
And so I signed us up for it for February of 2017. So 6 months later, but I got sick and I couldn't help myself and the doctors couldn't help me. And so I called up the Chopra Center and I said, okay, I filled all the paperwork. Nothing has changed. I still have all these symptoms. Nobody's been able to help me. I don't know how to help myself. I don't know where else to turn to. Can you help me? And they said, yes, we can help you. And I am like a little bit skeptical because no one else has been able to help me. So we ended up going. They're like, as long as you can get on the airplane, come, we can help you. I said, okay. So we get on the airplane, we go, and on the first day of the retreat, I see a doctor and she assesses me and I go through most of the program. It's a gentle detox. And the days are filled with, like I said, massages and nourishing foods. And day 4, I did like 75, 80% of it. By day 4, I saw this much of a light. I was like, oh my God, I'm actually starting to feel just a little bit better. Like I wasn't as dizzy, like everything was kind of coming into place. Like this is so interesting to me. And so one of the facilitators who was teaching us had shared a story about her life and how she was always getting sick. And that was me at Boeing, always getting sick. And my doctor, she would say, Monica, you can't wait 3 weeks to come see me because then you end up on antibiotics. You got to stop. Come to see me sooner. Start taking care of yourself. That was one of my wake-up calls. So I started to listen more to my body at that time. But this time I had no idea. It was like all of a sudden. So I wasn't sure. I'm like, I don't understand. I didn't see the signs. Was I not paying attention? Maybe. I don't know. I wasn't doing anything else. I wasn't working. So day 4, I'm feeling like this much better. And I'm like, oh my God. So the facilitator comes in and she says, I have been sick like all the time. I used to get sick all the time, flu, cold, all the time. But then I started practicing Abhyanga, which is the art of self-massage with herbalized oils. And she said, at that point, I haven't gotten sick in 10 years. And I thought to myself, oh, could this be true? Could I help myself this way? Like, oh my God, I'm going to stock up on all these oils and I'm just going to drown myself in oils and I am never going to get sick again. And so that's what I did. And so before we left the Chopra Center, I bought several bottles and I brought it home. And every single day since then, I have been doing this oily massage. And, I tell people the story and And I think about it, and I'm like, okay, well, this happened in, 2017 I healed, and then it's 2018, and then it's 2020, and then it's 2022. And I'm like, man, wow. So I have been consistently healthy since 2017. Like that is a long time. But it's not just the oily massage. It's some of the other things that I've incorporated. I'm not 100% Ayurvedic fanatic guru. That is not me. No, I am modern day Monica. Here I am. Life happens. I am pretty religious about some things, and that is oiling up for sure. And that is my sleep time, my schedule. Absolutely. I also pay attention to what I eat, but I cheat sometimes. I still pay attention to what I eat, but I'm very mindful about what is going on. And I am very much in tune to my body. If I start to feel just a little bit off, I'm like, okay, what do I need to do to balance myself? What do I need to remove from my schedule? What do I need to add to my schedule so that I can stay in balance, so that I don't get sick? So I'm always hyper aware of what's going on in my body, in my mind, what's going on around me, other people's energies. I'm always very much aware. So I still don't know what it was, but whatever we did, the gentle detox at the Chopra Center, eating the nourishing foods, getting on a schedule, lifestyle habits, this is what happened. And that's why probably these doctors weren't able to help me, because there is no medication for lifestyle habits. What was going on? In retrospect, what was going on in my life? I was eating dinner at the same time my husband was eating dinner, which was like 6:30, 7:30. I was going to bed late because I was staying up with him watching television, 10, 10:30, 11, 11:30. You get into your second wind, you don't go to sleep, your body can't heal. And this was a vicious cycle for me. This is what was happening. And now I know. And so when anybody says to me, oh, I'm experiencing vertigo, or I'm not sleeping well, or I go to bed at 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, I'm like, you know what? When you're ready, I don't want you to get sick, because if you keep doing this, especially at your age, you are going to get sick.
Yeah.
It's not just me, right? If it happens to one person, it can happen to anybody.
Absolutely. Have you been back to the doctor who warned you?
I fired my doctor. I fired my doctor. Here's what happened. So I did go back to her and I said, no, you're wrong. But she listens, but she doesn't listen. But this latest time I had this toe pain, and I had gone to see her, and I told her about it. And she said, you have to come to me 3 times before we'll do anything about it. And I said, what kind of shit is that? I went to get an x-ray. It showed nothing. I went to other doctors in urgent care, couldn't figure it out. Podiatrist, couldn't figure it out. And I'm like, what is this? So I'm like, okay, forget this. Like, that's all insurance. Everything's paid for. I need to go find what is holistic. Who are my people who are holistic practitioners? I went to go see a Feldenkrais practitioner, and she helped me. That helped a lot, but it wasn't 100%. I actually posted on Facebook. I was crowdsourcing ideas, and I said, here's what's going on. Here are my symptoms. What do y'all think? Why did I ask? I asked because if I've had it, somebody else has had it. And it's just not just one doctor I'm asking. It's anybody else in my circle of Facebook friends, right? May have had it. And like, how were they helped, right? Because then that's a lot of doctors coming in. So one of my friends says, well, she said, what if you've had too many oxalates? Well, I'll be honest here. I don't know what an oxalate is. So I Googled it, and it said, it's an element of food, okay, like a nutrient in food. And so I was looking at it and I said, oh, got it. I did have too many oxalates in my system, and that's what was happening. I had just introduced more nuts into my diet to eat healthier, but it was not healthier for me.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I fully understand and feel that. So I also had kind of an onset of illness. I went to doctors for 8 months, got told over and over that I just had anxiety and that I was like making this up. And I was like, no, I know my body. I'm not anxious. Like no way that I am having a panic attack in the middle of the night while I'm sleeping and waking up feeling like I have a heart attack. It just doesn't make sense.
No.
Turns out I got a heart condition called POTS from COVID. I had, the first COVID, the real like May of 2020, no vaccines, nobody knew what it was. It was like the heaviest of heavy.
Yeah.
And I was very sick for 3 weeks, and then I thought I got over it, and I hadn't. It had, jeopardized my heart, and there was nothing structurally wrong with my heart. But I had this, I could not control my heart rate. And I went to the cardiologist, and they gave me this medication, and they had, it made me even sicker because I had to have high blood pressure in order to take this medication, but I have naturally low blood pressure. So now I'm eating spoonfuls of salt while I'm feeling like I'm going to have a heart attack, I'm shoving down salt so that I can get my blood pressure high enough to safely take the medication, which will then lower my blood pressure and lower my heart rate. And I was just like,
oh my God, that's ridiculous.
I was like, can't do this. Went to a naturopath, and within a few months, we had it dialed in, and I was able to just take supplements, and those calmed down my heart enough, with lifestyle changes and diet changes. Like we got it under control. Yeah. And now I did something even crazier, which I had, thankfully I changed PCPs. I changed primary care doctors, and I have one that's like totally cool with naturopathy. And, when I do something crazy, he's not like, oh my God, you're going to die. He's more like, hey, let me monitor this so that you do it safely.
That's great.
But I did a 22-day medical fast.
Oh.
A 22-day water fast where I only drank water for 22 days. Had a fasting coach, spoke to them every single morning, got blood tests during. So like my doctor knew I was okay and alive and not hurting myself. And since then, I have not taken a supplement. I have not taken any heart medication. I have not had to do anything. I was able to, like you said, I gave my body the time and the space to be able to heal itself so that I am not, just forcing forward and making it worse.
Yeah. And every body is unique. And so not everything is going to work. Like, they have all these diets, right? Like it's not for everybody. Everybody's different. We all have unique mind body types, and it's not for everyone,
Exactly. Yeah. And that's it. Like now I only eat fruits, vegetables, and seeds.
Okay. And how long have you been doing this for?
Since January.
Oh, wow.
So we're going on like 5 months since I fasted end of December through middle of January. And then from then I've only eaten fruits, vegetables, and seeds. And yeah, it's really well to that. I'm vegan anyway. So it was like just cutting out, all of the processed vegan food and just going to like whole food, plant-based has really been the difference for me, because now when I get blood work done, it's like perfect,
Yeah. That's huge. That takes a lot of commitment to do that.
Yeah. And it's definitely not for everyone. And my experience was I had a very good experience with fasting. That is not the case with most people.
Yeah.
And I was very heavily monitored, right? Like I also am blessed that I work for myself. And so I did not, because when you do like a fast like that, you have to worry about all these other things that you don't think of, like soaps, and what your laundry detergent is, and any product that you put in your hair, and making sure that you're not near like toxic fumes and stuff like that. So I was lucky in that I could be home and kind of become a hermit for my fast and be close enough to like a bed that if I felt tired, I could just like go and take, lay down and still be okay.
Yeah. It's interesting that you chose to do this like in the winter time. Like I get it because like we hibernate, so it's perfect. But at the same time, that's when we technically, like need more of those nutrients. To me, that seems more like it would be easier, I think, like in the summertime, right? Just kind of because water's so refreshing, and do you know what I mean? And we want to keep hydrated. And
in Arizona,
oh, that's right, Arizona.
Summers are hot. Like that is a very hard time to not be in like full control of your of your capacity.
I forgot how hot Arizona was. I'm like thinking normal summer.
For us, winter here is like, oh, it's 70 degrees. So it's like perfect time to just like, yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you did that for yourself. That is so, everyone has a path, and I think it's important to share these things because a lot of people don't know that there are different healing modalities and different ways that we can take care of ourselves.
Absolutely. So how do you work with people now? So you're not an engineer anymore. I mean, or you technically are. You're just not a.
I just don't. Not for airplanes. I help people engineer wellness for themselves.
Yeah.
So
what's the process?
I do it in a couple of ways. So I offer Ayurvedic consults, and when I do it, I look to see what your dosha is. So a dosha is what your body type is, your constitution, what your energy is. And if you're familiar a little bit with Ayurveda, some people who are will say, oh, I know what my dosha is. And I'll ask, well, what do you know? What do you do with it? Oh, I don't know. I just know that it's, Pitta. And I'm like, oh, okay. But there's
a little bit about Ayurveda because I don't know.
It's a 5,000-year-old healing modality based out of India, and it's based on the building blocks of nature. So air, ether, fire, water, and earth. And then they break that up into 3 doshas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Vata is air and ether, and that is more, it's just the qualities. We look at the qualities of air and ether. So cold, and, there's things that, like the way you look, you're very thin, you're tall, you're lanky, you're creative. Pitta is fire and water, so a little bit more fiery. You're more like middle, like I'm Pitta. So like you're more kind of like in the middle body structure wise, and you like more structure in your life, and you might be too judgy. If you have too much Pitta, it might show up on your body as a rash, which that did happen to me recently. And I did go to the urgent care, and he's like, don't worry. He's like, first of all, he was colorblind, so like he couldn't even see on my skin, and I'm like, oh my God. Anyway, I didn't end up going to the dermatologist. I went to my immunologist. And so based on what, just what you said, right? You're changing your detergent, your shampoo, like what's going on in your body. She actually had me change all of that. And so now I use this Castile soap, which is very gentle. Yeah. So I switched, and like my skin is fine. And I just adjusted my eating. I don't know if it was from food though, but it was very interesting. And then Kapha is earth and water. So Kapha, they have like, they're more bony, not bony, like big boned, right? So a bigger structure of their body. They're more loyal. They have round faces, thick hair, big eyes, but too much Kapha. And we're in Kapha season right now. So these doshas are not just our body types. We are all 3 all the time. If we don't have a dosha, then we are not alive, because Vata is the air. So it's the space in between us, and it's the air that we breathe. Pitta is about digestion and transformation, and Kapha is our structure. So we all have it. The question is, what is your primary dosha, and what's your imbalance, right? So nowadays, if this season is springtime, so it's Kapha time. And so there's a lot more opportunity for congestion, allergies, things like that. And if you're kapha already, it gets exacerbated. So I'm being really mindful. I'm more pitta vata, more pitta than vata, but pitta vata. And you can be two doshas, you can be tridoshic. But it's really learning about what your body type is, knowing who you are at your core, at your balance, and then understanding what the imbalance looks like. So if you're feeling overly sluggish, if you're feeling like, oh my God, I can't get out of bed, or you're feeling too clingy or needy or congested, then it doesn't mean that you're kapha. It just means you have a kapha imbalance. So what do we do to bring you back into balance? We look at your sleep schedule. We look at what foods you should be eating to get that out. And that's basically what I do. So it's a lot about food. So Ayurveda is looking at, we want to eat 6 tastes in every single meal, which is really simple. It doesn't sound hard. It doesn't sound simple, but it really is, because a lot of foods will have different tastes to it. So if we include that, we reduce cravings, we can lose weight, but we want to focus on having all of those. And during each season, we switch the percentage of what we're eating. So kapha season, we want to have more kapha foods, more kapha pacifying foods, but still have 6 tastes in our meals, just to help us stay clear. So it's not, I had a client yesterday I was talking to, and she's like, I bought 2 books and I'm really curious about this, and I don't understand what I'm reading, and I don't know how to apply it. All I know is that I'm kapha. And I said, great, let me help you. So I started explaining to her like all of the things, because I didn't understand it once upon a time. I was at the Chopra Center. I filled out my dosha quiz and they said, oh, you're pitta. And I'm like, well, how do you know? Because it says it right here. But how do you know? Like, what is telling you that I am pitta? Like, what about this? I want to know more. So I'm very curious. And, there's the engineering brain. So, they couldn't tell me. And I said, well, okay, maybe they don't know either. So I'm like, I have to figure this out myself. So that's, I just follow my curiosities and my inspirations. And Ayurveda is so fascinating to me because there's so much juiciness with it. And the foundation is, let's see what your dosha is. Let's see where your imbalance is. So that's what I offer, like foundational. So I offer on Zoom. I can do it in person. Once you need more than what I can offer, then I suggest to you, hey, this is what you're going to need, because then you need to go to a specialist, like more of a specialist, and someone who does panchakarma, which translates as 5 actions. And the panchakarma is all of the massages, all the oils, things like that. So you're getting all of that. So I can help with nutrition, your schedule, movement, meditation. I'm a 500-hour registered yoga teacher. I teach meditation. I lead a lot of meditation. So those are foundational things. Once you need more, I send you somewhere else and say, okay, here's what else you might need. And if you need some like herbs, I don't prescribe any of that. I send you to somebody else if you need that. And so they make it specific for you and for your dosha.
I love that, because I think that so many people get caught up in having to do all of it. And then you're not doing all of it to your best ability, but like you pick the part that really speaks to you and that you are the best in. Yeah. And then allow people to be in their zone of genius. And I feel that so much in just everyday life, where we have this idea of this competition and not collaboration, where honestly there is enough for everyone.
There is enough for everyone. Yes.
Yeah. So if we kind of like take ourselves out of that and say like, hey, these people are not my competition. We can collaborate on things. I can send them people. We can do the parts that we do best instead of us trying to do everything and not being the best, giving our clients the best of each piece.
Yeah, exactly.
So, oh my gosh. So Ayurveda sounds so interesting to me. Is that like the prime?
So Ayurveda has 6 pillars, And that is movement or exercise, meditation, self-care, emotions, nutrition, and sleep. So I look at all of that. And while I do, like I said, I'm a registered yoga teacher, I might do some yoga with you. I do offer like a yoga class once a week with some sound healing. So I do support Ayurveda in those areas, because in Ayurveda, we heal through the senses, right? Our taste, right? So what we eat, what we're looking at, what we're digesting, not just the food in our body, but the people that we're surrounded by, what we're listening to, what we're reading, what we're watching on television. That is everything that we're digesting. So I look at it holistically. So I see where I can help. I give meditation classes, so I support that way. Emotions, here and there, it just depends on what comes up for people. Like I have, life coaching and health coaching in my pocket too. So I have a lot of things, but primarily, like you said, I just really enjoy giving Ayurvedic consults and helping people to just start their wellness journey. Like take that first step to well-being and finding balance in your life, however that looks, right? A lot of times what I'll do is I'll show a wheel of life to people and say, hi, if you go see a life coach, they're going to have you fill it out, right? Like how do you feel about, the finances and your family? And I just say, look at the wheel of life and which one is speaking to you right now. And we're going to work on that. That is it. And then I created a wheel of wellness, because those are the things that I can help with also, right? So what is your wellness wheel look like? What do you want to work on? Is it stress and anxiety? Is it your nutrition, your weight? Is it your sleep? Is it your spirituality? What is it? What is the one thing that you want to be working on, that you want to improve from? Like if you're giving it a rating of 4 out of 10, like how do you make it a 5? It's the one tiny thing that you can do for yourself, right? Absolutely. We are the biggest challenge I think we have is we are constantly in fight or flight mode. We don't recognize it anymore, but we are constantly in it. And this is what creates all the illness. Deepak Chopra said, and he's a doctor too. I don't know how a lot of people haven't heard of Deepak Chopra, but he's a doctor. And he said 95% of who we are right now and how we are in our health is based on lifestyle. 5% genes, 95% lifestyle. Yeah. So think about, where are you at? You can influence your health.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, I've seen it in my life and my family. It's just the members of my family that have kept their bodies moving, have they have outlasted, right? They're healthier for longer, and it is a lot to do with lifestyle. And then there are members of my family that are just like, I don't care about any of that. I want to eat the way that I want to eat. Let me take a pill. Yes. And I'm like, that's a very different, lifestyle.
It is. But, that could tell me something about them, that they are just more earthy people. They're more kapha. And so it gets exacerbated when they have the imbalance and they become too sedentary. So I have someone in my family also who doesn't move a lot, sits in her chair a lot, and eats a lot of food. There's no exercise. Yeah. So it's sad. I say it, I laugh. It's sad because there's nothing we can do or say to help them to get healthy. They have to make that decision. And that's really what it is. You decide. Once you decide, the universe will align, will support you, whatever you decide, whatever it is in your life. Yeah. But you need to make that decision. You need to commit to yourself. You don't need to know the how of it, but you just need to know that you commit to something, right? And then you will be supported, whatever it is. The right people are going to show up. The right song is going to come on. The right articles are going to be sent your way, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that has been shown to me over and over in my life. And so I'm so happy that you're putting that out there, because until you make the decision that something needs to change and that you're willing to take whatever actions necessary to make that happen for yourself, I mean, until that moment, you're stagnant.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
not going to change.
Nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
Yep. If nothing changes, nothing changes.
Yeah. And that's okay too, right? Like if that's the life that you choose,
Yes.
then as long as you're informed.
Yes.
Like,
As long as you're aware and you're okay with your present situation, sure. If you're okay with it, then that's fine. You know?
right. And I totally get, especially like knowing the health choices and the life choices that I made, you know, having a naturopath instead of a PCP for a very long time, because I knew that that was the way that I was going to get better, and it wasn't going to be with, you know, the just taking a pill. Like that wasn't going to be for me. It was not going to be sustainable for me.
Yeah.
Like once I made that decision and I accepted like this is going to be the way it is from now on until I can figure, until I can continue to figure it out. And I did figure it out, right? The right people were placed in my life to tell me about all of the different things, to get me the fasting coach, to find me the supplement, the whole thing came together so that I would be prepared for what I eventually went through, right? Like I started eating differently way before I even did my fast because I knew that certain things were triggers for my heart condition, which ultimately made my fast much easier because I had already cleansed my body of so many toxins that I did not have as many toxins to,
Release. Yeah.
release in fat as I was eating myself.
No, and this is going to become more prevalent when people start noticing how angry they might be getting when they go see their doctor. Like I remember last year, was it last year or 2 years ago? I went to see the doctor and they had me read a form that said, you can only see your doctor for the thing you made the appointment for. And I'm like, but the body's connected.
Right.
Right? I want to talk about a lot of things, not just the one thing. Right? In 15 minutes, I had a doctor, I fired her, but I had a doctor who, as I was still asking questions, she was already walking out the door. And I said, hang on, I'm not done yet. I have more questions for you. Like, what the heck is wrong with the system, right? Just because insurance pays for it. But if you go to a naturopath, homeopath, Ayurvedic practitioner, doctor, whoever it is, functional medicine, you're going to get their time. They're going to look at you holistically. And yes, insurance doesn't pay for it, but it is worth every penny because they are actually listening to you. They're listening to you. They're assessing. I'm very fortunate. I found this immunologist who also practices Tibetan medicine. So she blends in East and West. And fortunately, my insurance pays for it, like because she's a traditional doctor, but she's not pushing medication on me. She's the one that said to me, hey, you teach meditation, you teach yoga, you already know how to breathe. I was misdiagnosed with asthma. I was taking asthma medication. And then I found out that the asthma medication I was taking, which I knew deep down I did not have asthma. Okay, this was a misdiagnosis. And I was diagnosed in 2019, I think. And I was like, I don't have it, but I'll take it. But I don't know. This isn't right. I don't have an answer right now. What do I do? Anyway, long story short, I went to go see her and she's like, you're right. You don't have asthma. And the test that she gave me, it was the same test the allergy doctor gave me, except she actually showed me the results of my test. The allergy doctor did not. My immunologist doctor did. And I was like, dang. She goes, if you had asthma, your graph would look different. I believe I know what you have. There's no medication for it. Woohoo. But I have to breathe differently. I have to be aware because it could knock me for a loop. My vocal cords will close. I have a vocal cord dysfunction is what it is. It's not asthma. And so my vocal cords were closed and then I will pass out. Similar triggers, and they're finding it more in youngsters who play sports, youth who play sports.
Wow.
So, it's really important to listen to yourself. Listen to your body. If you don't think it's true, it might not be. Get a second opinion. Go see a different kind of doctor. Anybody.
Absolutely. Yes, be your own advocate. I
Be
cannot
your own
stress
advocate.
that enough. There have been enough times in my life where I knew what the doctor was telling me was absolutely wrong and no one believed me. And I just kept going to different doctors until someone figured it out. You know, like you have lived in your body for as long as you have.
You know me best.
Exactly. No one else can tell you what you're feeling.
Nope.
So don't let them tell you that you have anxiety or you have this or like you're making it up or you're exaggerating your symptoms. Like, no, your symptoms are your symptoms, and you find someone who believes you.
Yep, exactly. Yep. And it's hard to find, and you're going to have to go through some doctors, but
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I've been through many, but you just have to like stay strong and know that you're not crazy, right?
The right people will show up. The right doctors will show up. And a lot of it is, and maybe this is another episode for you, Galit, but someone who like teaches you how to just tune into yourself and notice, are you leaning in? Are you leaning out? And but getting to that is having your body somewhat healthy so that you can trust it, right? Eating healthy foods, because we have the gut-mind connection. And so we want to think about it. And I do a lot of this. And even if you flip a coin, right? And you're like, heads, I'm going to go to this doctor, tails, I'm going to go to the other one. Flip it and then notice how you're feeling. Ooh, I didn't really want to go to that one, but that's what the coin told me. So what's that really telling you? That you want to go see a different doctor, right?
Yeah.
And you can physically do this exercise, right? Leaning in, like, do I feel like going in? Like, or is it, and it's subtle movements, right? Like, oh no, this doesn't feel good. Not going to go there. I always look at like doctors' faces and their bios and I hear them speak and that kind of guides me too. I do a holistically, research on doctors.
Awesome. So we are nearing the end of the podcast. Tell people how they can get in touch with you.
So my website is monica.coach, monica.coach. It is a little bit under construction, but there's still valid information. So you can book a free discovery call with me. My Facebook group link is there, email, sign up for my newsletter. And then you can see also the classes that I am offering. Some are in person, some are online. I would love to talk to you. I'd love to meet you. Thank you for having me, Galit.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. So if you are struggling with your health or this just speaks to you or you know somebody that this could be beneficial for, please make sure to get this episode to them. Like, subscribe, share, do all of the things that will make sure that this information gets to where it needs to be. And I hope that whoever's listening right now, I hope it's you. Thank you again, Monica, for being here and for sharing all of your wisdom. And you really taught me a lot. And I'm going to look up Ayurveda and I'm going to like try to figure out what I am. Because it's super interesting. And it's just, I'd love to like explore it further,
There's so many fascinating healing modalities out there. I'm curious about your fasting with water. I don't know if I could do that. It's not for me, I'm pretty sure. I'm curious about it.
It's not for everyone. And even my primary care physician, when he heard that I was doing this, he was like, oh, okay. And that's how I knew he was a great doctor, because he was just like, interesting. Well,
yep.
Here, you walked in on, when I saw him, I was already 16 days into the fast. And so he's like, you're here. You walked in by yourself. You are having a coherent conversation with me. I want to see how this plays out.
It's curious, right? I mean, that just tells me that he's so open to learning new things also. Right?
Yeah.
The growth mindset, which is really important to have in a doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you for having me, Galit. Thank you.
And everyone else, tune in for another episode of the Galit Speaks podcast coming up. Have a great day. Bye.